Even avid mushroom pickers, hunters and simply lovers of forest walks know that they should always stay away from the swamps. This place, the Tikhvin Swamps on the Vepka Hill, are no exception. True, unlike other similar places, this land is known not only for terrible legends but also for real ones and at the same time. Inexplicable human casualties. Hello my thrill seeker, my name is the Horror Collector. Scary stories, urban legends, mysticism and human cruelty that is sometimes hard to believe. If you ready to plunge into this abyss, then follow me. There is only one rule: don't look back. Tikhvin Swamps received wide publicity in 2005. That summer a group of friends from St. Petersburg came here to hunt. Residents of the village of Shugozero, located not far from the forest, immediately looked askance at the respectable men in good cars. They say, we don't wander through the local swamps during the day. Someone was walking through the forest with a gun. Someone with a camera and someone fishing in the evening settled down in the hunting lodge to spend the night. Only Alexander did not come. Klokhov's friends weren't particularly worried. He was an experienced hunter and could easily stay overnight in the forest. However, the next day Alexander did not return. His comrades raised the alarm and began searching. They searched for the missing hunter for a week, interviewed the locals. One of Klokhov's friends remembers that the villagers were taciturn, did not make contact and refused to help in the search, as if they knew something and were afraid of something. Surprisingly, Alexander's body was found in a ravine just 5 kilometers from the house. But most of all, the task force shocked. Another man was completely undressed, his clothes and underwear were neatly folded on a stump. There was not enough in the set. Only shirts. There was a loaded gun leaning against a tree nearby, after 7 days spent in the swamp. It was not easy to identify Alexander. The animals were pretty much in possession of his corpse. However, the examination was able to establish his identity. Deceased, but there is no cause of death. According to one version, he died from cardiac arrest. According to another, they are sure from frostbite. Investigators, in only one case there would not have been any signs of violent death if it were for the low position of the newcomers like theirs. Nicknamed in the village, this incident would have gone unnoticed and turned only into a terrible memory of a few witnesses. However, the media became interested in the case. One after another, journalists began to come to Shugozero, and it turned out that the mysterious death of Alexander Klokhov, which horrified the city, for the locals, is just another incident in a series of terrible and the less common deaths in rotten swamps. Turned out to be that over the past 10 years, since the 2000s, 3 to 4 people have disappeared every year in the Tikhvin Swamps, mostly young men. Later they were found dead. After the third incident, the head of the local police began to sound the alarm. Stumped by the unusual behavior of people before death, it was established that they all fought in the last hours of their lives. Mysterious agony. People threw off all your clothes, someone scattered things over tens of kilometers, and someone folded them in a neat stack were almost all the items of the deceased's wardrobe, except for shirts, t-shirts and t-shirts, the most. A memorable incident occurred with a local tractor driver. After meeting with friends, the guy decided to take a shortcut to the house and walked through the swamp. They found him only a few days later. His jacket was lying in one place, his pants and overalls were in friend, and he himself was lying in a ditch. After an autopsy it was discovered that his stomach was full of dirt. Why did he die before death? 8. The earth still remains a mystery. How the village residents reacted to the newspapermen. Reluctantly, however, some journalists managed to communicate with the relatives of the victims of the Tikhvin Swamps. They spoke with I still shudder. I hope to find out the truth about the death of my relatives. One woman spoke about her brother Vasily, who in In 1993, he went for cranberries and disappeared. The man knew these places like the back of his hand. However, this did not save him from death. Saved him, searched for 23 days, his body was found near a local river in that place. The lights of the houses were visible. However, Vasily did not come out to see them. He seemed to have gone crazy. The sister of the deceased shared that without thinking anything, he scattered his jacket and boots a kilometer away. It's interesting that the basket of berries was with him. However, there were neatly folded underwear and a pectoral cross in it. The police did not find only one thing. The shirt of a dead man. In just 15 years, 16 naked dead people were found in those places. Why did people continue to go to the dead swamp? After the first mysterious deaths, the question remains to this day because it is obvious that terrible stories immediately spread throughout area. Maybe the dead did not believe in the curse of these places, or maybe, on the contrary, they were brave men who decided to prove that it will not take them. Moreover, at that time there was no official publicity about this incident. About what? Only there are no legends in the local villages. As they say, if you are afraid of everything, do not go into the forest. While the villagers were whispering about evil spirits in the swamps, the police decided to settle on a simple and understandable explanation of everything. The men drank too much and died in a fever. However, many facts stood out from this version, for example, that the majority. No traces of alcohol or drugs were found in the blood of the victims. In addition, there was one woman among the victims. The disappearance of a 40-year-old teacher strengthened local suspicions about the evil power of these places. In September 2000, Maslova went around to the homes of her students. The children were from different villages, so her path lay through unfortunate swamps. The teacher never returned home. She was found dead, undressed and without signs of violence on her body. Underwear and a suit were neatly folded next to the white blouse in which she left the house on that fateful day. It was possible to find. The men were left with a husband and 2 children. Having learned the details of the tragedy, the locals sighed bitterly. That's how everyone thought that they disappear in the swamps while drunk, and then our teacher would consecrate this place and surround it with a solid fence for 15 years of death. The unfortunate people were overgrown with versions, guesses and rumors. Criminologists believe that all these people, they just got lost in the forest for their nakedness. They also found an explanation for hypothermia. People have a deceptive feeling that they are very hot. That is why all the dead took off their clothes. Their consciousness was confused and they wanted to sleep because of this reason. They were looking for secluded shelters, a ravine or a ditch. In this state people can bury themselves in foliage or snow in this case, this is precisely what could have led to earth getting into the mouth. Another version of the investigation became poisoning. Investigators noticed that all deaths are seasonal from April to October. Wild rosemary that grows on swamps in large quantities could release a special toxin. The evaporation of this plant caused weakness in people, heat and clouding of mind, which led to the unfortunate deaths. However, over the years, the locals have had their own assumptions, which defy logical explanation. Journalists have repeatedly heard from residents that in the forest there lives a certain flying monster. After being bitten by it, people lose their minds. Cryptozoologists fully agree that in the Tikhvin forests there live flying snakes whose bite is fatal. Outcome and assures that it was probably them that the locals saw in the swamps. However, Mora's description, what the villagers called it, is far from the description in zoological textbooks. According to them, there is a creature on the head. A growth similar to a cock's comb moves. It doesn't move like an ordinary snake by jumping as if rising in flight. A few centimeters above the ground. It turned out that after the meeting with him there were survivors based on their After a sad experience, the population of the village even developed a special strategy of behavior in case of an encounter with a monster. It sounds like a running kite. You have to zigzag because in flight it's difficult to change the trajectory. The locals decided that those who don't lucky to survive, they probably waved their things away from the forest killer, which explains the scattered clothes all over. There is another mysterious version walking in the forest. Old-timers assure that according to legend, mermaids live in the local swamps. There are truly beauties in the local waters. There are many legends. It is believed that they once upon a time there were girls who, over the years, were sucked into the swamp bog, bringing peace to their restless souls to this day. Not yet, everyone hasn't died young and unmarried, so the virgins are looking for husbands for themselves among those who accidentally wandered into web sublimity. Interesting in this story is that according to Slavic mythology, mermaids could not do without of one piece of clothing. In ancient Rus, young girls hung it on bushes and trees near swamps so that appease the undine. As you may have guessed, these were undershirts if you ask the village residents now. They will talk about events that happened 30 years ago even more reluctantly than before. No, they have not lost faith. The devilry of the Tikhvin Swamps, it's just that there have been no similar deaths in these places for the last decade and superstitious people are not. They want to bring about a new disaster despite their notoriety. Now these places attract an abnormal number of people here. Search teams are constantly working to find remains from the Great Patriotic War here from all over. Onlookers come to the region to see the lost place with their own eyes. They even conduct excursions here if you find yourself on a high hill, then look into the fog above the swamp and see if a mermaid's tail appears there. Carefully remember the road you are walking on and be sure to look under your feet, and if 30 snakes come at you from under the ground, then you know what to do. Run not in a straight line, but to the side.